Put a lightning bolt in the chat. You can hear me. No crackling, right? Everything's coming in clear. Thank you, thank you. Good deal. Um, Karen, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to talk about. You know, I guess Eminem, in a way, Marshall Mathers said it pretty much best. Nobody knows what the fuck I've been through, and I understand that. I understand that now, but I also understand too. Until they experience adversity themselves, that's when it really hits. If we're moving forward, we're going to move forward, not backwards, not any other direction, but forward. That's the way it has to be. Someone asked me this morning about 5:30, 6 o'clock. Do you sleep? Yes, I do. I do sleep. Um, as a matter of fact, I try to get 5, 6, maybe 6.5 hours in, and maybe throughout the day. Um, I'll sleep every once in a while, to be honest with you. I'm happy. I've not been happy in a long time. It's been a while. Being able to see how people work, it gives me an advantage, a huge advantage, as a matter of fact. Seeing how people operate, seeing how people do others, it kind of it helps in a way. It is early in the morning. I ain't gonna lie, very very early. Did a little bit of running, not much, but a little bit. Um, when I was incarcerated, every morning I would get up, and of course everybody else would be asleep. I'd be the first one up. They'd always say somebody would like roll over or something in the bed in their bunk, and they would be like, "Shell, how do you get up early in the morning? How can you do it?" And I would get up at 4 o'clock, sometimes 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would write for an hour and a half in my notepad, my notebook, and I would write what I want to do and what I would like to see happen, and it was all about when I'm released. Um, Most of the things I wrote about was a change, and each morning it was something different than the morning before. I took and I never forget what I started. I drew a line straight down a piece of paper, and I wrote the positives on one side and the negatives on the other. And I took myself and used for an example what I'd want to make better about myself, what I want to discard about myself. A lot of things. I mean, I done this each day, and I remember one came up with friends that I was working on. I would look around and I would talk to people. Every time I would talk to somebody on the phone, they would talk about, we're being talked about, we're being talked about. And I thought to myself, this is a perfect opportunity. This is the perfect opportunity to build on. So I jotted a few things down, and we had one Bible. We had one Bible in the cell. We weren't allowed to have but one, unless you had one that somebody had, a preacher or something, would give you or something. But we weren't allowed to have anything with hardbacks or other than just paper. It had to be paper. Everything had to be paperback books. So as I'm jotting things down, I would I would lay the Bible down and lay the notebook on it. That way, it'd give me an angle. That way, or my tablet on it. That way, it'd give me an angle, and I would study whatever lesson, whether it's a mentoring class or what it was, and I would take notes and I would write it down, and I'd write it. I'd write it that way. I'd remember it easier. So as I was writing it down, I would come across things. And I would be like, "Wait a minute! I've kind of, I've kind of ventured into this in my life before. I want to change this," and I would try to make it work for myself. Of course, that hour and a half from like 3:30, 4 o'clock to 5:30 when breakfast was served didn't last that long. I want more time. Everybody would start getting up, and we only had one little bitty piece of table. It wasn't really even a full table. It just maybe 3 or 4 people could sit at it. That's it. And it was just, it was just halfway sticking out. There was 16, 17 people in the cell. So I'd have to remember sometimes breakfast would catch me and I'd still be writing. And I'd have to move real fast and put my books up and raise my map back up, put my books and stuff back under there in my notepad, composition pad, gun pad, whatever you want to call it. I remember one time I was working on it. No, this new guy was in there. Hold on a second. Oh wow, the Attorney General. Okay, I got it. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Okay, cool. Anyways, so I guess some things are moving right along. I like that. I like things moving along. Thank you. I can't believe they got back in touch with me. So this won't be a long live. I mean, it might be a decent little live, but not much to go by. For I kind of want to talk about this because I didn't get to talk about it on the other one. But I remember I was working on my little project, and this new guy came in, and he sat down, and he was like, he came from another cell. Well, when people come from other cells, it really we wasn't a check-in cell at all. So it didn't go too good. It didn't go too good. When you get put out of one cell, you usually make a whole trip around the freaking cell block, um, because you got put out for a reason, and we honor that in the jail. You honor that with other cells. So of course they had their side of the story. Everybody has their side of the story. It was just ridiculous. Sometimes people are put out and they don't want to fight. They're too old to fight. They're too, they just, you know. But like I would tell everybody, in certain situations, you have to stand up for yourself. No matter how big someone is, you have to stand up for yourself. In life, that could be one of the hardest lessons is standing up for yourself. If you have something out there that is worthwhile and you don't protect it and you don't stand up for it, you won't have it long. You won't have it long. So this guy, he's getting out. He's like, I ain't worried about it. I'm getting out. It's all right. Okay, so he stays. Nobody really knows the deal with him. And he was a kind of a younger guy. He was probably 21, 22 years old. And I'm sitting on my bunk. He comes over and he says, he's getting out. Well, we don't know when we're getting out. There's a lot of people in there that's not getting out for a long, long time. He's over there. His girlfriend, he's over there talking to her on the tablet. She's coming to get him. She's driving all the way from Huntington, West Virginia to pick him up. So it's like 3.5 hours. And he was just, oh, you better get me a pizza, you get me this, get me that. Now, mind you, he hadn't been in jail probably 3 days, 4 days at that. At that time, I'd been in jail 5.5 months. There's a few other ones that was in jail, for a year and a half, 2 years. One was in there for 4 years. Can you imagine being in the same cell for 4 years? So as it's going, he comes over to me. He's like, man, I don't know. He said, I kind of feel home here with you guys. Brock's sitting on the end of the bed. We're having a discussion, and he comes over there. First off, he didn't ask permission to come over there. That's a no-no. He came over the fence. So we excused that. And he said, Shell, he said, no, he said, I never forget this. He sat down. He said, Shell, man, I really don't have no one outside. And I don't know if I just want to, I don't think I want to sign myself out and go with her. It ran all over me. It ran all over me. Brock looked at me, and we looked at each other in awe. And I looked at him. I looked over at Kerr. Bravo was on top bunk, like he turned over, and he's like, "What the fuck did he just say?" Anyways, that's a no-no. It's a very bad no-no. The kid was probably about 22, 23 years old, if that, 24 maybe. And I'm like, you got your whole fucking life in front of you, and you're telling me I've not been in here near as long as Brock. I was like, Logan's been in here for 4 fucking years. I said, Cam just beat a murder charge. He's been in here for 3.5 years. And you're going to tell me, of all people in this cell, that you don't want to go home. I said, there's people in here that would kill to get out of here and go home and see their people. He was like, I just don't. He didn't even get those words out. I slapped him 3 fucking times across the face. Kerr's eyes got, I never forget this. He was like, oh shit. I was like, now hold up. And I grabbed a hold of him and grabbed a hold of his shoulders and I sit him down. Because he was, after I hit him, of course, he was going over. So I grabbed him, sit him down. I said, listen here. I said, you got you a woman out there. I just seen you was talking to her. You've been talking to her. You treat her like fucking shit. I said, people in here would kill to have someone like that. The whole 3 or 4 days you've been here, even though we're not in this cell, but he would been there 3 or 4 days. He'd only been there like 1 day. And then him say, oh, my family's here. I said, ain't nobody in here gives a fuck about you. On the outside, they're not going to think about you. They're not going to remember you. You're just another motherfucker that come through that door, is all you are. Your real people is people on the outside who care for you. They're the ones who will remember you. I said, she's coming 3.5, 4 hours away from you just to get you. I said, don't you ever say another word like that again. Don't you ever be stupid like that again. And he's like, yes, sir, Shell. Yes, sir, Shell. And Brock's like, look, you're young. You don't really understand how the world works right now. You're talking about you're turning this one out. You're turning these women out. You're turning these girls out. And there's men in here who have daughters. We don't want to hear that fucking shit. Like he literally about got his ass destroyed. So after that was over, he stayed over on their side, but he was like, he would never forget this. He was looking over and he was trying to get my attention, and he had his hand going up. I was like, "Are you raising your fucking hand now just to have permission to talk?" And he was like, "Look, I don't want to be this, And I'm like, "Look, wait, what do you want?" He's like, "I think you're right. I think I'm gonna quit doing that. I ain't doing that crack no more. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that." So he was only doing that for face. He only did that because Brock and me. I could tell it because when she came, they come across the speakers. He was hitting the button, and he was like, "My ride's on the way. Be here probably another 2 hours." And it was like, "Pack it up." So as he's packing things up, when you say pack it up in your name, it means you're going either transferred, you're getting transferred, or you're going to be out. You're getting out. So as he's grabbing his mat, he pulls over. The son of a bitch had a sausage and biscuit from the breakfast that morning laid up under his mat, and Kerr's sleeping under him. And Kerr reaches up and he's like, because everybody, when you leave, everybody always goes and raids. If you've got commissary, if you've got whatever you got, if you left behind something, well, it don't matter what it is. Soap, shampoo, what it is. People take it because some people in that cell don't have anything. So they were raiding him pretty much. They pulled the mattress off. He pulled the mattress off. And of course, he had juice packs. He had everything. He had a fucking sausage and biscuit under there. And the breadcrumbs fell up under in little bitty hose and it went into the bunk down below. Well, it hit Kerr in the face. Well, that's all it took. Kerr got up there, motherfucker. Now, Kerr, he only had teeth on the half side of his face. The rest of his teeth were rotted out. Kerr was in there for a gun charge, and he was caught with heroin and something else. And he had pretty much went out as he shot up, and he hit a telephone pole going 75 miles an hour. So He tore the damn telephone pole about out, tore the pickup truck up, tore the concrete up where the truck was set. And he was rushed. And they first they had to Narcan him, and then they had to save his life at the hospital. So he spent 2 or 3 days in the hospital, and then they shipped him to jail. They found the pistol. He had actually took a pistol and painted it like the Punisher logo or some shit. Anyways, I don't know exactly allegedly what he done. Um, anyways, he was in there and he didn't have nobody. So what he would do is he had a sister, he had family on the outside, but they never did have nothing to do with him. And he would always whine, moan, bitch, complain. So I told my sister, I said, look his sister up on Facebook and just at least let her know that he's in here. I did all that stuff for him. He was one of my main customers. What I mean by that is I would get dips and he would trade trays and I would give him the dips. He would give me trays. So he would gamble a lot. And he said, Shell, give me 2 dips. Let me have 2 dips so I can go play cards and I'll win and I'll give you this back. I was like, first off, you're not going to win. And he's like, why ain't I going to win? I said, because I'm playing. And he would laugh. He would crack up. He's like, oh, you going to play this game? Well, I said, I'm not going to play against my own money, Kerr. He's like, look, man, look, dog. I'll give you this tray, that tray, taco tray Friday. I'll give you the milk cereal. You know, I'm like, here, look, bud, just go ahead, go have fun. I want to read anyways. So I would watch him as he played. He built his chips up so high, but he'd give his game away because he's always nervous. Whenever you would raise the bet, and I mean, at one time there was like a pack of dips on one game. All dominoes was in, all the little cut cards for chips was in, and his hands, he was so nervous, he was sweating because he had that fear of losing. The fear of losing, what he was addicted to. Those dips he was addicted to. That nicotine he was addicted to. I knew how to play him. If I wanted to win and take him for everything, or any of them in there that was addicted, it was hard. Now there was one player. He was pretty much in there. He was a convicted felon. He was caught with two AR-15s, a 1911. He was it was in his house, and they said the woman was missing, and they did a safety sweep, and they called all this shit. Him and his wife both. Her girl went to jail, but he was a damn good card player. Like, I never will forget this. There was a game that we had so many chips in, and I was already up. And I'm like, I'm going to put him out. I was thinking to myself, I'm going to put him out. So the moment I had something in my hand pretty good, the moment he checked, well, I raised. I said, I raised 25. Bam. He said, you going to do that? I went back around and he said, I tell you what, I see you're 25, raise you 25. So here I am now. He could have been, I could have took him out. So I'm thinking, he checked. I raised. He don't have anything. Boy, was I wrong. He was just playing the hand out, filling the table out. I had a good hand. I had a real good hand. But he had a full boat. And what was bad about it is I had a full boat. 6s and 3s is what I had. He had jacks and aces. But when he checked, it made me think, wait a minute. I already thought I was wanting it all anyways. I was wanting to take and put him out and take those chips on the table. No one else, I knew when I started raising, I knew how everybody else played. But when he checked me, we were friends. When he checked me, I knew then, boom, 25. And then he raised me 25. I was like, what in the hell? When he threw this hand, I had a full boat. When I threw my hand out, and I was getting ready to rake across and get that. And he threw those. I'm telling you, you could have heard. It was bad. I looked at him and I was just like, why did you check me? He said, I was being friendly. I didn't want to go all in. What he was doing is feeling everybody out. For some damn reason, every time we played, he would always have a way of trickery. So one day, I had 4 of a kind. I knew I couldn't be beat. So I reverse psychology him. And I checked it as everybody checked around the table. I checked it. As soon as I did, not only did Brock raise, Kerr raised, And he was like, and it took him for a minute before he done anything. He was looking at me. He was like, Shell, I'm going to tell you, I know what you're doing. He said, I fold. I wanted his chips. He folded. Of course, I took everything there. It came down to me and him. Everybody was getting up at the table. It was me and him. He looked at me. He said, I want to give you a word of advice. He said, I can tell how you're playing. And I was like, how? He said, after this game, and after I take everything you've got, I'm going to tell you. Well, of course, I was like, you son of a bitch. I was like, you ain't getting it. You ain't doing it, bro. He's like, trust me, Shell. I'm going to do it. 2 hands later, I was out. And he told me how he knew what I had, if I had anything, if I didn't have anything. I never will forget that. Never will I ever forget that. To this day, I could probably go to his place and he would treat me like a brother. He was like one of the best people ever. Um, I learned my lesson from that. I really learned my lesson from that. I remember it like it was yesterday. So yeah, in jail, it was different. Way, way different. You know, I'm not going to be someone that says, hey, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, because if I can't do it, I'm not going to say I can't. Used to, before I went to jail, can't was not in my vocabulary. Now, if I'm not able to do something, I'm not going to say that I can't, because I do understand my limits. When people say limits is what you put on yourself, that's true to a point. But limits in its own can be the best lesson ever in life. That's true. So last night, I learned my lesson. If I'm going to step away and let someone on my panel, and I step away, it's untelling. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Everybody. Everybody. It is what it is. If I stay in the past, example, last night, what happened? If I stay in the past, guess what? Guess what? I'm no better. I am no better if I stay in the past. But that was a setup that was ready for me last night. It's okay. I understand. But you see, I've faced adversity before and I've came out of it because I turned that adversity into advantages, just like I am with Tiger Ops. With TigerForces.com, that's exactly what I'm going to do. That's exactly what I'm going to do. It will work to my advantage. Now, there's quite a few people who pretty much, when I've done the $10 thing, that got in. I do appreciate that. Thank you. At first, I started off with $100. I was going to give away $100, no matter what, automatic. And then I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I've got 25, 28 days to do this stuff, a month pretty much. Because I like the way I'm doing it, Rolling Stones. I know you don't like it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Anyways, so I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to up it. I'm just going to up it just to say the fuck it, just up it, be done with it, come out more than $200 and put it down there for the first one. It would be nice to do 300, 500. So either or. But right now, for the first one, I think we should do more than 200. I don't see no other channels doing that. I don't see no other channels being able to just say, "Hey, here's $200 to somebody who needs it." You know. Thank you. I appreciate it. He does. In Christmas time, I want to do at least $500 to $1,000. That's my goal. And with what I'm doing with working now, I'll be able to do that very easily. Now, I'm not going to recall and bring back the past. I think those creators have done that themselves. I plan on moving forward. If I move forward, then I don't want to compete with them, but I will be competing with myself. Because if I compete with myself, then I can always make myself better because I'm always competing with myself. If I compete with someone else, then it's a lost cause. I understand their agenda over there. I know what they're talking about. Now, I just got messaged. My stepdad messaged me and said the attorney general would like to speak with you and gave me a number. I did do what I said I did. I'm not lying. I'll read this to you. You need to call back the attorney general. He was wanting to speak with you over the messages you have left. So, hold on. I've not called him. I've called him when I talked to him, what was it, last week? And they said they would get into an investigation. I want to see what happens. I guess that's what it was. Well, when I called him, I was at my parents'. I was at my parents' place. So now let's find out what happened. I did not lie when I said I did what I did. No reason to, because what they did to me was illegal. Now, thank you so much. I guess that's what happened, Gemini. That's what the message I just got just now was. So we'll find out. We'll find out. You know, I'm not big into others. I'm not big into other people and what they're doing. I'm about myself and what I'm doing. I want to do it in a way to help people. If I use my skill for helping people and I'm doing it in the right way, no matter what they do, no matter what people say, they will not be able to beat me. But if I use it in a harmful way, I pretty much defeat myself along with my purpose. What gets me is these other creators. They wait for someone to come along, someone they can grab content off of. Let me ask you a question. You subscribe to these other creators on YouTube. Now tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. You subscribe to these people on YouTube. What I don't understand is, say that they're $4.99 a month. Say if they're $2.99 a month. No matter what they are, let's just say they're 99 cents a month. Okay? And that's just one of the tiers, one of the levels they have. Well, just for that one level, if you're on that level, well, guess what? In 12 months, you just gave them $13, $12, whatever. Let's say you get one that's $4.99 a month. It's $3.99 a month. You get what I'm saying, right? Some people $50, $60 a year. Now, what is these That wouldn't let me unmute, actually. We're going to cut this short. I got to make a few phone calls. Thank you all. I appreciate it. And I'll see you later. I've got to do some things. Thank you all. Much respect.